injury wasn't. You weren't. You were no stranger to
No,
injury, were you?
no.
You carried off with concussion
Yeah.
more than once.
Yeah.
You were a very brave goalkeeper, always going in at the feet of forwards and that sort. What was that? Just part of the game in those days, or was it just you?
I think a lot of it is that, you see, being small, I suppose you had the ability, say, in other things that that tall goalkeepers didn't have. And I don't want to run tall goalkeepers down, because I'd like my grandson now to be 6'3" and he might get on. But I think he's got the ability like I had. And you see, in my day, Brian Clough, Bobby Robson, the one who's died, manager of Ipswich, they didn't mind you not being 6'6", as long as you was doing your job. And all their goalkeepers, if you look back in Bobby Robson, Brian Clough, they never had big goalkeepers as long as they were doing their job. And I suppose I had to make up for lack of height by being brave, but you don't, to be perfectly honest with you, you don't think about those boots coming at you when you're playing. You know, your adrenaline is really pumped up, but all the adrenaline, because I did used to put Cambridge United, yeah, same as I did QPR and Leicester, but more so with Cambridge. I enjoyed putting that shirt on. I honestly did, and I'm not pulling any. I wanted to play because it was a good living, and like I told you earlier on, I was getting as much money as people doing 7 days a week at Marshall's, working hard 7 days a week. And who wouldn't want to keep fit and get paid for it? Loved it. I loved the enjoyment of going over the Coldham's Common. And if you go over there now, it's like Wembley. Yeah, really, I mean, I can't understand. And we used to love it to go over there. And I was always, one of the last ones to leave, because I used to make them have 10 minutes shooting at me, like both sides, so I didn't have to run and fetch the ball. So I had them that side of the goal and that side of the goal. And I used to just turn and I used to have them for 10 minutes. Some of them I wouldn't let go until I had my 10 minutes diving around, which I had to make up, I suppose, for lack of height again. But today, if you look at the goalkeepers today, they don't come off the line at all. You look at now I've said this, you look at the goalkeepers on your television, and everybody's got decent television, so there's no excuse. They don't come off the line. They might be 6'6", and yet they said, I was a line keeper. What they call a line keeper. But I'd always come to my 6-yard box and punch it. I don't think. I think it's got much better, the football. I think it'd be harder for me to make a living now than it possibly was when I was a footballer, because although you had big squads, I mean, when I was at Leicester and they had the team photograph, there was 42 in the team photograph, and 5 of those was goalkeepers. Gordon Banks, Dave McLaren, all these boys. When I went to QPR, there was 5 goalkeepers there in the picture. So it was harder. You had bigger squads, but I think it was a little bit easier than it is today, because you have small squads and you've got to really be on your toes to keep your place. I think it's harder for the goalkeepers today, because you can't pick it up, can you, for throw-in and things like this. Whereas I could come to the edge of my box and you could, if it was a throw-in, you could throw it to me, or they could pass it back to me, I could pick it up. And I think it's easy to be a goalkeeper, but not easy possibly to get a job, if you could understand what I mean. I think it's easier for a goalkeeper today because he's got these gloves on. Well, I couldn't believe it, how good they are. I played in a charity game over here with Bobby Robson and all that one night, and I borrowed Malcolm Webster. I asked Malcolm Webster if I could borrow his gloves. He said, of course you can, Rod, because I only had crochet gloves, and a lady used to crochet my gloves, which we only wore when the ball was wet. And but anyway, this night I borrowed a pair of gloves from Malcolm Webb. I couldn't get rid of the ball. It stuck, you know, it was incredible.
Yeah.
They are, honestly. It was incredible what a difference they've made.
I just want to talk about one or two of the managers, really. Alan Moore, he resigned in 63,
Yes, he did.
64. Did he say why he resigned?
Well, I think there was starting to get a little bit of interference, not choosing the team, but I think that's what Alan wanted, and I can understand that, because if I was a manager, I don't think I'd want too many people interfering. If I'm manager, I have to stand by it. If I'm not doing very well, I have to take the stick. If I'm doing well, I'll take the praises. Well, I think this is what was happening, because Cambridge at the time, in the 60s, the beginning of the 60s, we was becoming to get one of the best non-league clubs in the country, wasn't we? Because we had a game against Altrincham. Altrincham was supposed to be the cock of the north, and we was the cock of the south. And we beat them 1-0 at Altrincham, and I finished up in hospital. But Cambridge was coming good, and you had three blokes earning money for the club, weren't they? Dudley Harless and company. Magnificent. I mean, and you had so many workers at this club. I've been around in the last few years, and I've followed my grandson. Wherever he's gone, I go with him on a Saturday. And I've been to some of these clubs, and they're dead compared to what Cambridge was in the 60s. In the 60s, it was absolute, everybody, they couldn't do enough. We cleared the pitch, the players. We went one Saturday morning, because the game, that was, I think, either when it snowed in the 63 or 66, we had a lot of snow, and they wanted to get our game on against Bedford in the FA Cup. I think it was going to be on in those days. There used to be football called About Anglia. I think it was About Anglia. And anyway, we all went in on Saturday morning, the players, and cleared the pitch. But no, we all mucked in with the supporters and cleared the pitch. I think the supporters would do it today, don't get me wrong. If they were asked, I think they would today. But would you get many footballers today?
No.
Would the manager say, I took it out of them too much? We didn't think. We just cleared it and we got the game on.
Yeah. You had a great relationship with the supporters. You were
Absolutely.
voted Player of the Year
4 times.
4 times. So what was that relationship like with the supporters?
Well,
obviously
that was one of the things I stayed in Cambridge, I would imagine. I mean, I can say it now because I'm not playing and I'm not connected to them. I put, not the generosity, but the faithfulness, or whatever would you call a support? I put them before money. Because don't forget, in those days, Watford, who was quite a well-off club. Fulham, they had a Gibraltar, Macedo was in goal when he was packing up, and Fulham came after me, wanted to pay a lot of money for me. At the time, Northampton had gone from the 4th to the 1st division, in 4 seasons. Northampton was going to pay a lot of money for me. I was given a choice. There was no hiding. I was took in the office and I was asked whether I wanted to go, and I was told as well that it would be double the money I was earning here, and yet we was full time, mind you, just the same as Fulham and Northampton and Watford. And I think it was the supporters that I stayed for, really, to be perfectly honest with you. Because I enjoyed it. I mean, I made mistakes. Don't get me wrong. I mean, you cannot make mistakes. But they never slated me for it.
What's that little yellow thing going on there for?
But I did have good seasons at Cambridge, didn't I? So I think a lot of it is because I from London and Leicester. I felt wanted when I came to Cambridge. That's the biggest thing for me. It's like every job, isn't it? If I was working today, I'd got to be liking my job to enjoy it. I only had 2 jobs in my life, apart from the messenger boy at the British Sugar Corporation. I went then be on the ground staff at Leicester when I was 16, so I didn't have many months as a messenger boy. But I only had the 2 jobs, football and fire service. Both jobs gave me job satisfaction. You know, I knew I was doing something for the public when I was a fireman. I used to go to road traffic accidents and I felt I was helping them. And the same with football. I was enjoying it so much and I was getting paid.
What are your overriding memories of your time at Cambridge United then?
My overriding memories of Cambridge is that I was treated like a king. If I went out in the street, I agreed it was the same conversation every time. I don't think a carpenter would like to go out in the street and if he was a carpenter during the day, and at night he was talking about carpentry all night. But I had to put up with that because that was my job, I thought anyway. And I used to go back and I used to go in the supporters club as many times as they were. Not that I ever got drunk, because I didn't. I don't drink it now, I don't drink now. But anyway, here I am. But Cambridge was absolutely magnificent. I stayed on this road, you know, I only lived just 2 doors on, and I mean, I went into the fire service because I felt I wanted to give people something back in Cambridge, because I'd been given 10 years of a very good life with my 2 children, and that's how it was. I mean, if I could go back now, I would do. I never missed a day's training. I played with a broken leg. I played in the FA Cup against Burton, all the second half with a broken right leg and couldn't take my goal kicks. They took me to hospital afterwards and I'd broken it. I wanted to do anything I could, in other words, because I enjoyed it. I had 11 stitches under there and I played 3 days later after I'd had them stitches in. They came over here to the house, the doctor and the manager, and they put all stuff on it, and I played against Wimbledon. So I gave back, you know, to Cambridge what they gave to me, and so it was good, wasn't it? You know, I wasn't taking things away from Cambridge and not giving nothing back. That's what I wanted to do, because I'm that, you know, I'm that type of chap. And you know, I'm well in my 70s now, and living opposite the ground, so I can't, you know, I can't get away from it, can I? But,
well, Rodney, you've given Cambridge an awful lot, and you've given Cambridge United an awful lot, and you've given the supporters some fantastic memories. So thanks for sharing some of those memories, some of your memories with us. Thank you very much indeed.
And thank you very much for coming. I mean, you've got to remember how many years it is since I finished playing for Cambridge, and isn't it marvellous and nice to know that I can have you 3 blokes sitting in here all those years. We're talking about what, nearly 50 years, or is it 50 years? And it's the same if I go down to Tesco's down the road. You know, I had a chap come up to me and give me he saw me in there, he said, oh, I'll come in here every week. Anyway, he saw me 2 weeks later, fished out his pocket a great big report that they had of me in the Weymouth paper. He happened to be on holiday down Weymouth all those years ago in the 60s. Yeah. And he kept it, obviously, and he brought it to me in Tesco's.